I do like to be wrong sometimes. I've seen Squid Game season 3. And to explain that intro, mine just gut instinct at the idea of more seasons of Squid Game was like, "Oh god, no, don't do that. Don't do that. You're going to wreck it. At best you're going to make a limp attempt to recapture or recreate it." And while the second season didn't like feel like it fully confirmed that, it didn't fully dissuade me off that notion either because it wasn't finished. I appreciated a fair amount of the characters in the second season and some of the things that they were doing. Some of the nuances brought in with some of the characters, but by and large, I found myself just going, this feels like a creator doing his best to get more blood out of this stone, but I'm not sure there's actually anything that's being contributed here. No, there's definitely some stuff going on here that I really appreciate. And it actually makes me appreciate the second season better because some of it was stuff that was going on there too, but I didn't notice. I didn't fully recognize and appreciate yet. So, what am I talking about? Well, season 1 is an unapologetic and vicious attack on capitalism and what it does to society as a whole, and what it does to people as individuals. Whether they're trying to be a good person or not, it just makes everything worse. And I didn't see how follow-up seasons were going to be able to expand on that meaningfully. And as far as the critique of capitalism, these don't really. But they expand the critique to more than just capitalism. Because what I realized in this season, the criticism has expanded out to democracy. Now, I need to jump on this pretty much right away. When you say that something is criticizing democracy, it's very easy to jump on the notion of like, oh, so it's anti-democratic. What is this, fascist, communist? Like, what's the problem with democracy? Calm down. Democracy is not flawless. No system of government is flawless. Every system that has ever been invented has problems because they are all created by humans and humans are fallible. So there's literally no perfect system, and it is possible to critique democracy and how democracy and the ideas of it get twisted to evil ends without having to condemn the overall notion. Does this condemn the overall notion? I don't know. Somebody could make that argument. I'm not sure it does, but it's not a requirement if you're going to criticize democracy. So how does this criticize democracy? Oh, by the way, if you didn't realize, I'm not really going to do a recap. I want to dive into themes and talk about that. So I assume you've seen this or you don't care. So how does it critique democracy? By putting so much emphasis on the voting. Because it's possible there was more than one vote to continue the game in the first season, but my memory is the idea of voting to end the games only happened once. And, they voted to end the games, everybody left, but then a whole bunch of them came back because, again, mainly a critique of capitalism, they were so screwed by the society that they were living in and the debt that they were weighed down by. Even knowing that they had a very good chance of dying in these games, they still came back. So that was how voting was used there. It was used not as a critique of the idea of voting or democracy in and of itself, but instead used as a way to make it clear that these people aren't trapped by the forces on the island. They are trapped by the circumstances of living in a capitalist society. And they are trapped enough and desperate enough to come back, or at least most of them are. This time, we get votes following every game. After every game, there's a new vote. Do we keep playing, or do you divide up the current prize pool and walk away? And this was going on in season 2 as well, because again, it's one continuous story spread out over 2 seasons. But I noticed this time that I will not get the exact wording right, but there was a phrase that it said like, in accordance with your democratic vote, the games will now continue. And I noticed that, and then I started watching out for it, and I'll tell you the one that really hit me. The last game, They're on, I think this was when they were on the central pillar. They have a vote about who to throw off to their death. And it's not the fact that they have a vote that I think is the important thing here. It's the way that they behave. Because I do think that is indicative and representative of the manner in which people will treat the results of a democratic vote as if, well, that had nothing to do with me. That's just the way it went. Because they held a vote on who to throw off and kill. And then they look at him and go, look, this is what's fair. This is what we had a vote. This is the result. So it's just what's fair. Sorry. Ignoring, not the narrative ignoring, but these people ignoring. And oftentimes in real life, people ignoring that the question at issue in a vote might be a monstrous question in the first place that maybe shouldn't be something that's being voted on at all. This shouldn't be up for consideration. We shouldn't be doing this. Or that even if this is what the majority of people want, doesn't mean it isn't monstrous. You don't get absolved of guilt just because a majority of people agreed with you. But when the vote goes these people's way, and this was also true of the votes to continue the games, they were just like, yep, well, nothing to be done now. It's like, no, there was stuff to be done. And it also demonstrates the pressure of being around other people who have a investment in your vote and who care about you vote. Voter intimidation, like not necessarily on a grand scale. This is all small scale, but it exemplifies things. So it brings in notions of voter intimidation, voter apathy, even people who just seem to not know what to do, but they have to do something. There are people who think, I would say the people who clearly put the most thought into it are the ones who change their votes a few times, the trans character being a really good example. And for the record, no, I don't consider her death to be an instance of bury your queers, because the very nature of the premise of the show is that the vast majority of characters are going to die. So I don't particularly find this to be an egregious instance of bury your queers, because she is not an exception to the rest of the cast. And I think again, I have my criticisms about the casting, did a whole video on that, but I think as a character, she is well realized and well performed. So no, I don't have an issue there. Now, I said this doesn't really deepen the criticism of capitalism that much. It does a little bit, though, because there's a new wrinkle. And that's the baby. So when player 222, who's pregnant, gives birth and then dies, it is decided by the VIPs. I'll come back to the VIPs. It's decided by the VIPs that the baby will now be designated 222. And it's really interesting that when that gets announced, because prior to that being told to the remaining players, they are seriously considering ending the games. Now, like, the vote still could have gone either way, but there are definitely some of them who otherwise might vote to continue them, who are going, I think this is enough. I think we can stop. But then when they find out that the baby's now designated a player, which means the baby gets player 222's portion of the funds, they go apeshit. Some of them flatly scream out like, I worked for this. That child did nothing. That child didn't earn this, didn't work for this, doesn't deserve it. How is that a critique of capitalism? Oh, I don't know. How do a certain kind of person, how do they react at the idea of people just getting assistance? People getting welfare, raising the minimum wage, universal basic income, healthcare for all. How do certain people react to that? What? Why should I get less so that they aren't left to die? It frankly is absurd, as this paints it. They get a slight amount less so that a baby who has every right to exist won't get anything. They would rather make sure that that kid gets nothing than accept even slightly less than they thought they were going to get. It is such a gross mentality that I see variants of in real life all the goddamn time. It's oh, man, it's so well done, and also really kind of exemplifies Ji-hoon's, our main character, 456, his choice at the end, because I think a harsh reality that a lot of us need to wake up to is us trying to fight back against all of this. We may not see the fruits of that. It may be the generations that come after who are actually going to benefit from meaningful reform, if we can even pull it off. To borrow that line from Lucian in Andor, I burn myself for a sunrise I will never see. I feel like Ji-hoon kind of makes a similar choice. And I also want to talk about Ji-hoon in relation to I guess he's now the host. He was the front man before, the guy with the black mask. So I loved that. And I love the order that they did this. I love that after the host offers Ji-hoon a knife and says, they're all asleep. You could just go kill them right now. And while he's watching to see what Ji-hoon does, we get a flashback to when he was in the games and he was given the exact same speech and the exact same choice by, the old guy from the first season. And he did it. And he watches Ji-hoon, who doesn't. And I think that's so important. And the host at the end, rescuing the baby, retrieving Ji-hoon's money and giving it to Ji-hoon's daughter, that is the kind of thing that is real hard to balance, because having somebody who was the villain make that kind of move, but it feels like that doesn't feel right. Something feels off about this, either in terms of, this person should have been, punished narratively, karmically more than that, or I don't buy that they turn that hard. I buy it here because from his time, posing as a player in the games, we know that he was kind of just trying to break Ji-hoon. And now we know why. Because he has been telling himself for years now that he was given the opportunity to kill the other players in their sleep, and he took it, and that's not his fault, because he did what anyone did in that system. The system broke him, but it would have broken anybody else too. And if that's true, then it's not his fault. But it doesn't break Ji-hoon, which means it is his fault. He didn't have to break. He chose to stop fighting, and it is possible to have chosen a different way. He watches somebody make the choices that he didn't make, and he has been telling himself for ages, nobody can make those choices. But somebody does. And it makes him pivot away from something that he had accepted because he thought there was no way to not. But then he sees that there is. That's really well done. This show's real good. I burned through this so quick. The points at which they do the episode breaks makes it almost impossible to walk away from this show. If I have a criticism, it's the VIPs. I didn't like the VIPs last season, and I really didn't like them here. And there's one of a couple of things going on. And regardless of the cause, the result is the VIPs are drawn very broadly, speak very unnaturally. They don't sound like human beings. It's just really, really clunky, basic, on the nose, not well delivered dialogue. And I don't know how much of that is an issue of the actors aren't that great. I don't like to say that as a general rule. I don't like to point the finger at the actors, but that is a possibility. But it would have to be a case of none of them are very good, which that seems statistically unlikely. That the translation of this, because they speak in English, that whoever was writing the English, whoever, it's not really localization, but whoever was handling that, since the writer director is Korean, whoever was handling that only kind of knows formal English, and doesn't really understand vernacular English, slang, how to make dialogue sound natural. Or there's also the possibility, because I can't know either way, it's also possible that the Korean dialogue is just as clunky as this, but I can't tell because it's not my language. And seeing it written, does it read a little formal? Yeah, but I tend to chalk that up to, the translator. So it's one of those three, or like some kind of combination of them. But yeah, hearing these characters speak, and I feel like there was more of them this season as well. I don't like the VIPs at all. Like, the idea of them is fine. The concept of them plays into the themes. It works. But like, wow, their dialogue it's not even like first year film student like dialogue. It's like high schooler making home movies dialogue. It's real bad. And like, again, not in terms of the ideas it's conveying, but just like sounding like dialogue. It's so bad. It's so bad. So, yeah. Oh, we had the thing at the very end, seeing that the games are going on in America, which from what I can tell was actually not intended as a setup for David Fincher's, I'm going to call it a spinoff. I don't know if I'm going to watch that when it happens, but I was relieved to find out David Fincher is not remaking Squid Game. What he is making is basically intended to represent, like, okay, we've seen what Squid Game looks like in Korea. Here's what the American branch of this, the American equivalent of this would look like. Making it more sort of an alternate take, as opposed to attempt to recreate the narrative or recreate the characters or anything like that. So I'm fine with it existing. I may or may not watch it. But this is actually not meant to tie into that. So don't expect Cate Blanchett to come back. That said, that's a kick-ass cameo. I dig the hell out of that. Hell yeah. But I was real pleasantly surprised by how good this was. I thought, like, I had enough faith in the creator that, like, it wasn't going to be a cheap cash grab. But I was like, this is going to diminish the overall presentation. It doesn't, though. I still think the first season's the best, but there's deepening and expansion of themes, and it's real good. It's real good. But again, not flawless. I hate the VIPs. The detective story was too drawn out and ultimately was only happening so that they could have a means to shut the thing down. And the Soldier 11 and her stuff was good. It was good. I was way more invested in the players, but that wasn't a bad storyline. Yeah, I think that was everything I wanted to say. This was good. I'm really curious what the creator's going to do next. Because following up on something as good as Squid Game and making something that doesn't feel like a cash grab, especially when it isn't clear if he'd ever planned to keep doing more, that's amazing. That's just incredible. Squid Game Season 3, what did you think about it? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Patreon pays the bills and enables me to do this as my living. Even if you can't help me out that way, like, share, subscribe. They'll help me out. Don't worry too much about it, though. We take a relaxed attitude around here, so you can just come on back next time you need a break. This was good. And now to thank my highest supporting patrons: Robin Moore, Jared Boyce, Zubin Lutfula, Auntie Kate 808, Mira G, Angry Casperl, Dave Hall, Movie Turtle, Oliver B, Sean Miller, Welsh Wrestling Geeks, Melissa Pedersen, Mary Mello, Becky Sparks, Loki Eris, Tracy Scrabbit, Pal Barabajoggle, and Sir Didymus is my favorite. Don't worry, the rats are all fine, but my rat wrangler is not here right now, and I thought we could have Archie say hi. Or not.